eyes streaming uncontrollably from the acrid haze. Even once they'd been let out of the shelter, it had taken her a while to grasp that not only was having a wash and a cup of tea going to be out of the question, but that they'd been left with nothing but the clothes they stood up in. Her thoughts interrupted by the rush of collapsing masonry, she spun about, only to swiftly shut her eyes and turn back from the wall of dust hurtling towards them. When she felt it safe to look, she was aghast to see that Prentice's had collapsed, leaving a gap all the way through to the remains of Bagwell's the printers, where flames were still licking from upper-story windows, and the heavily blackened front wall looked as though it, too, was about to come crashing down. Unable to shift the taste of wood ash from her throat, she directed her attention back to the mound of rubble that had once been their home. Here and there were the remains of neighbours' possessions, the iron door from a kitchen range, a tin bath, closer to, a fire poker. Reaching across, she tugged it free and used it to stab at the debris. Ruddy Germans! What she'd give to flatten their homes, see how they liked it. Curse Hitler, curse Goring, and curse this stupid war for ruining everything. She'd loved being an usherette. It might not have been what she intended doing for the rest of her life, but being able to see the latest films over and over, especially the musicals, had been a joy. Each new release brought the chance to study more actresses, to pore over their costumes, copy their hairstyles, their makeup. It had been through watching the leading ladies that she'd learned how to sashay down the aisles and glide across the foyer, exuding what she'd hoped was the same sex appeal as Jean Harlow, not for nothing known as the blonde bombshell. And then there was Rita Hayworth. She could watch her dance with Fred Astaire in You'll Never Get Rich until the end of time, and still never tire of doing so. The plaza was also where she'd learned the words to all of the latest songs, and where she'd picked up how to use a gesture or an expression to convey meaning. And now look at her, still 5 years short of adulthood, and yet, already, thanks to this war, her dreams lay dashed. With a despairing sigh, she dropped the poker and turned to where Clemmy was stood sobbing. "What are we going to do? Everything's gone, all of it, all of it." Yeah, there was no sense sugarcoating the situation. Ain't so much as a matchstick to be saved from this lot. The sight of everything laying broken was too much even for May, who, despite being a woman to take life's trials in her stride, looked as though she'd had all the stuffing knocked out of her. No, the poor girl agreed. Poor old May. When their mother had been taken ill and not long afterwards passed on, it had fallen to her to take care of everything, from seeing the rent got paid and the laundry done, to putting meals on the table and keeping track of their food rations. But no sooner had they got back on their feet when, like the bad penny that he was, Charlie Warren had shown up again. After an absence of God knows how many years, during which he couldn't have given a tinker's cuss what happened to his wife or his only daughter, and certainly not to his 2 stepdaughters, he'd simply moved back in and taken to scrounging or thieving from them as the mood took. Moved back in? Dear God, her father! When the sirens had gone off, they'd left him, slumped, in his usual drunken stupor over the kitchen table, which is where he would still have been when the bombs started. The fact only now registering, she shot a look to where May was standing with an arm around Clemmy's shoulders. Then, to make sure Charlie wasn't lurking somewhere, watching them, she cast about more generally. Satisfied that he wasn't, she said, "You know, there is one good thing." May's expression, as she met her look, was one of puzzlement. "Really? Not sure how you fathom that." "Well, you gotta think we've seen the last of Charlie." The look on Clemmy's face suggested she doubted they could be so lucky. "You think he were definitely still in there then? You don't think he could have got himself out before the bombing started? He couldn't have woken up after we'd left and took himself off to shelter someplace else?" Withdrawing her arm from Clemmy's shoulder, May shook her head. "Think about it." Keen to hear what she thought, Pearl picked her way across the rubble towards her.